G'day, welcome back to my mini home workshop. Well, today's the day we're going to find out if the 6 weeks I just spent making these new slides was time well spent and money well spent. It's been a lot of work and I'm just got my fingers crossed that everything's going to work well, and I'll give you a little bit of commentary as we go, and otherwise I'll just play a little music or sit back and leave you in peace and quiet. I'm about to fit up the lead screw nut for the first of 3 or 4 times. It was driving me crazy having to take it in and out, but because it's encapsulated in that slot, it has to come out each time I want to move the slide any real distance on that carriage. After figuring out just where I wanted to place it, I clamped it down to the carriage so that I could use a punch to mark the first hole. The reason there's only one hole at the end is the idea is to bolt at one end so that it can pivot, and then I can align it to the spindle. I jury-rigged the original plate to the end, just using some of the holes that were already in it so that I could physically wind the carriage backwards and forwards with the lead screw. That centre punch mark is awfully close to the other bolt, so I thought I'd just best check a little fit in there, and it was okay. I did promise somewhere that you wouldn't be watching me drill and tap hundreds of holes, and I'll try to keep this down to a bare minimum. Seems that most people want to watch it for some reason. I find it a bit boring. Just in case you're wondering why the video footage has no background noise or sound, I listen to the radio when I work, and I'm a little worried about YouTube hitting up with copyright infringements for material that's playing on the radio, so I've just deleted all of the soundtrack that's with the video. Here I'm just roughly squaring it up with the rule before I set up a dial gauge to check whether I'm nice and straight on the spindle face or not. I had to put the lead screw back in and jury-rig the plate on the front again so that I could wind it fairly smoothly across the face of the faceplate and check whether it's parallel or not. I spent ages and ages and ages trying to get it worked out, and decided I had a little problem somewhere, but I fixed that and the end result is pretty fantastic, as you will see in just a moment. Got to be happy with that. That's it's pretty damn good, really. I'm impressed. I actually broke this little 3mm drill when it punched through the 20mm plate. It hit the mounting for the lead screw nut on the carriage on the back side. Didn't even realise it till I went to drill another hole with that drill. Couldn't figure out why this drill suddenly stopped most of the way at the bottom of the hole, and didn't figure out till later when I saw the broken drill bit and realised that I was trying to drill through the top of a broken drill. The tap I'm using here is an M6 spiral fluted tap made by Sutton Industries in Australia. Managed to pick it up from a dealer in Bangkok. Beautiful taps, and they cut wonderful threads. They're fantastic. I had the gib screws done up a little tight here, and that's why it's hard to move. I fine-tuned it all once it was all fitted up, and it moves very nicely now. When I set up the lead screw nut, I allowed it to wiggle around just a little bit so that I could align it properly, so there was no extra forces being applied to that nut. It's pretty crappy to start with, so I don't want to wear it out faster than it needs to wear out. Applied some high pressure grease to the lead screw to help with its wear. It does quite a bit of force being applied to that thing as you work it. And I used the same grease later on with the thrust washers on the front plate. Got the lead screw nicely lined up before I tightened up those two nuts that hold it in place. Those two thrust washers sit in a cavity in the back of the faceplate, so they should be well protected from swarf and rubbish that's flying around the place. When I first tried to fit up the faceplate, it was sort of wobbling around a bit and rocking, and I discovered there was a high spot on the end of the carriage, so I gave it a tickle with a grinder and sorted that out and got on with it. Right now, about 15 or 20 minutes of head scratching and swearing like you've never heard is about to start as I tried to assemble this gearbox. It just wouldn't go together. What I'm doing there is that big gear screws onto the end of a M10 by 1.25 stainless bolt that's welded onto the end of the lead screw, and I used the gear to pre-tension the thrust bearings, I called them washers before, and then the nut just acts as a lock nut. Yeah, I know, I'm about to get really rough, but I had no other way to hang on to that gear just at this particular point in time. What the hell's going on? It all fit together before. I pull it apart, it fitted perfectly.
Every sunrise is just for you. So come along and take my hand.
Yep, complete moron me, picked up the wrong gear originally, the original 45 tooth gear, and fitted that instead of the new 40 tooth gear. It's amazing how well things work when you use the right parts. That little aluminium housing there has a needle roller bearing in it. I originally had one of the small skateboard wheel bearings in that one, but when I changed the gears, it was too far to one side and I couldn't move it over far enough, so I had to get that little needle roller to get it closer to the 40 tooth gear. It's packed full of grease and that shaft fits very nicely into it. This brass bush sits under the micrometer ring and it gives it something to run on. It's just clamped onto the shaft, and the micrometer ring has a grub screw in it, and underneath that there's a little piece of rubber that applies a bit of friction to that brass ring and acts like a brake shoe. When I machined it up, it was just a thou or two too big in the ball. That's what I came up with, and it works pretty well. Oops, that's a bit tight. The rubber's pretty soft and you can see it squeeze out there. I need to find some rubber that's just a little harder than this stuff. It's a bit soft and a bit gooey. Almost done. All I need now to do is put that cover on, then you get on there and it's pretty much done. Before I put that cover on, I fine-tuned all the gibs and made everything nice and put some oil on it and got it all working great. Look at it, beautiful. After putting all the covers and everything back on, it was time for a test drive. It's a pretty heavy cut, and I would never have been able to do that before without it shaking and carrying on. It's handling it pretty good. I'm impressed, I like it. So that's a job well done, I think, and a total success. This is a 16mm chem set bolt that I'm machining here. They're pretty tough stuff. I don't know exactly what they're made out of, but they're pretty tough stuff. It's a pretty nice finish, and it looks like I may have solved the taper turning problem, and the small difference that there is here, just a couple of hundredths, is probably a bit of flexing away from the tool. Some celebratory fireworks for a job well done. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been a lot of work, so if you liked it, press that like button. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet subscribed. And while you're there, press that little bell. You know, the ding-a-ling-a-ling one. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.